Sam Tobias is first in. Hey, Sam, what is up? Let's see. What am I looking for? I know what I'm looking for. Oh, I'm trying to sign into Twitter. That's what I'm trying to do. There it is. Clint Proctor, good morning. Luisa Alanis, good morning. In 90 seconds, the moon will move into total lunar eclipse. If you can see the full moon over the horizon where you are. It was kind of cloudy and misty and almost drizzly here as I was on the way to work. I couldn't spot it, but it is happening now. Hector Gomez, good morning.
Now, Chris Duel.
Let us synchronize our watches and let us turn our attention to the skies. In about 25 seconds, the moon will move into totality. As we speak, a total lunar eclipse is moving into the totality phase, meaning the moon fully in the shadow of the earth, the full moon, and it begins right now. Mark, at 6:11 a.m. in the Central Time Zone. It's going to last until 6:26. So Shannon Salty Sweeney, the moon pretty much in alignment with the first segment of this show, going into a total lunar eclipse right now.
Is that good? Because I know people are really into like Mercury phase, and then they blame that on everything. I don't really understand all that.
Retrograde.
Yeah, I don't know what that means, so I'm hoping that this sounds like it's nicer.
Yeah, it's cool. Well, and again, you're right, though. Different people interpret it differently, and certainly astrologers might give different meaning to it. But it's just a cool event. I knew it was coming, and I knew when I was driving to work that the moon was in partial phase, meaning part of the Earth's shadow was beginning to obscure the moon, and it begins to turn kind of reddish. However, the weather where I was driving to work in the Stone Oak area in San Antonio was kind of misty and drizzly. I couldn't see the moon. So while it's happening right now, if you can get outside and see it, if you're near a window and can go look outside, if you have visual contact with the moon, it lasts until 6:26, meaning the moon will be reddish, and that's because it's inside the shadow of the Earth, and the sun is not striking the moon again until after 6:26.
You and I are both in rooms with no windows.
Exactly. Yeah. So I just have to guess what it looked like.
I have a fake window behind me. It just goes into another room.
Yeah,
another room.
I got fake windows too. We got these. The way I see Dave Ayler, I've got the virtual window. So Dave Ayler is on a TV screen, which back in the old days of radio, he'd be on the other side of the glass in the studio. But
we still have the glass here.
Yeah.
Y'all are much more updated in San Antonio than us in Austin.
Well, and when we moved into this new building, and it's very high tech, but they, what they called these were studios of the future. It's like you're in another. Now, this is it's all automated. It's studios of the future, and but occasionally the future breaks down on us occasionally, and these TV monitors go out. But it's working now, so no harm, no foul. I do have to say, anytime I talk about an eclipse, Shannon, just putting it out there. There's a big difference between a lunar eclipse and a solar eclipse, and there's a big difference between seeing a partial solar eclipse and being in the path of totality, which is where day turns to night in the middle of the day. The moon moves in front of the sun. That's coming to Texas on April 8th, 2024. Make plans. Be in the path of See, in San Antonio, I've done the research on this because I'm a freak, Shannon. I've attended 2 actual total solar eclipses, and they blew my mind. So San Antonio on that day, I think it's going to go over Austin, but San Antonio is going to get 99% of the eclipse. So people in San Antonio are going, oh man, well, I'm getting 99%. And what they don't understand is at 1% of the sun coming through during an eclipse, it is 10,000 times brighter than actual totality being. So you need Kerrville. The path of totality will go over Kerrville, and I believe over Austin. I'll check on that, but you got a little under 3 years to get ready. I'm just saying, plan ahead. It's like going to the Super Bowl. I'm going to the Super Bowl in 2024. Okay, plan ahead. I'm just saying. There's that. There's my eclipse portion of our show, Shannon. I can tell you're riveted.
I mean, I'm still dealing with the fact I wake up and I go outside and it's wet.
Yeah.
I'm so over it.
Wet now and like dank and humid and yeah.
I need to start working on my base tan, and for whatever reason, the world is like, no.
Yeah. Not yet.
Don't.
Still a little rainy and drizzly out there. Chris Duel show along with Shannon, Salty, Sweeney under a total lunar eclipse, and there's a whole lot going on. First of all, and I have it on my screen, Shannon, as we stream live video, as we always do on Ticket 760 and AM 1300, The Zone's Facebook pages. Also, live video, you can get to it via YouTube and Twitch. The words I have up this morning: thank you, Luka. Of course, that means Luka Doncic. And Shannon, your beloved Dallas Mavericks have come through once again. They get the win last night in Los Angeles, 127-121 over the Clippers. Clippers had 73 points at halftime, but the Mavericks were right there with them. Would not budge. So Mavericks up 2-0 in that series. I think that's way cool.
I'm very excited. Yesterday in our poll, I said the Lakers would win the Lakers would lose and the Clippers would win because, a little reverse psychology. I don't want to go too all in as we are the lower seed here, but I'm super excited, super pumped. MFFL.
Yes.
Pro team. It's also ironic that, the Clippers kind of tanked in order to play Mavs for the matchup. And how's that going for you?
Watch what you ask for. And again, I admit this. I'm not proud of this. I'm a lifelong Spurs fan. I'm not over what Kawhi Leonard did to this team. So I know it's petty. Thank you. I know I need to evolve and become a better human being. I'm just not quite there yet with Kawhi. And among other things, now the Clippers' job, they have to win 4 out of 5 games to pull this series out. As you know, 3 of those 5 games will be in Dallas. And now that's where they got to win 2 in Dallas, right? Yeah, they can only lose 1 more, and 3 are in Dallas. You got to win 2 now on the Mavericks' home floor to pull out this series. And I just think, you look at the teams and the people and the fan bases, Shannon, that Kawhi Leonard has just left in his wake. And one of them was Doc Rivers a year ago. Yeah. Doc Rivers was the fall guy for that Clipper team that and then after they blew out Doc Rivers, we got all these reports of Kawhi would show up 40 minutes, an hour late for practice because he had to drive in from Orange County, or Kawhi would just call off practice. So, I don't think we'll be practicing today, Doc, because I'm Kawhi. I hope the Mavericks seal the deal, and I hope somewhere Doc Rivers smiles. And you know what? If the Philadelphia 76ers wind up winning the title, I'm not necessarily pulling for them. I don't pull against them. I have nothing against the Sixers. In fact, Bill Schoening, who's going to join us at 8 o'clock, voice of the San Antonio Spurs, he's a Philly guy. And he's, although he's all in on the Spurs, he grew up as a Philly and a Sixers fan. So I think, at least when it comes to the Eastern Conference, he's got some allegiance with the Sixers. But how cool would it be if Kawhi and the Clippers get booted out in the first round by the Mavericks and Doc Rivers goes and wins the damn title with the Sixers?
I'd love it. And I do feel bad for Doc because I feel he'd probably prefer to be living in LA than Philadelphia, but he's doing his thing. And I think, I don't think he'd ever say anything about it, but I think he'd feel good about them getting knocked out, that, I wasn't the problem.
Yeah.
You think both Kawhi and PG will leave? Or that one will leave and one will stay?
Oh, that's a great question.
Try to bring in somebody else, even though there's no one else to bring in.
It's almost like yesterday's question about which Laker team is going to lose. The odds were maybe one will, but probably both won't, or both won't. I think probably one of them leaves, and I got to believe if they lose this thing, apparently there's already angst regarding Kawhi Leonard. If they lose this thing, I mean, if you're the Clippers, if you're Steve Ballmer, do you want to give Kawhi a max deal? If you look at how this thing, I know he's like one of the 5 best ball players in the NBA, but he's a head case.
Yeah.
He's not a leader. He's destructive to teams. Do you want to go all in with all of your money and make him and they're building an arena and make him the face of your franchise? I'm not so sure.
Yeah. You almost see him. The only markets that I kind of see going all in would be those smaller markets who want that drive and want that, big name to go with their team. But again, I don't know what the money is, but I know the Heat have been a popular destination that's been thrown out, but I don't think that organization would let him get away with some of the stuff he's been getting away with these past few years.
Pat Riley, a disciplinarian, an old school guy overseeing that team. Eric Spoelstra, does he want to put up with that nightmare? That's a great point.
I mean, you go there, you're following under the footsteps of LeBron and Dwayne Wade.
Yeah.
And all those that came before you. I don't see it.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see how it plays out. First things first, Mavericks, seal the deal, knock out those Clippers. It's 2-0 Mavericks right now. Tell you what we're going to do right now. We're going to do this now and at 7:20. In fact, we do it 12 times throughout the day on the 20s on whichever radio station you're listening to. Actually, both of them, Ticket 760 and AM 1300 The Zone. It's a grand in your hand cash contest. We're going to give you a keyword right now, and then you go to either website for Ticket 760 or AM 1300 The Zone. There you see a little box you click on, says grand in your hand cash contest. Boom, you put the keyword in there and you are in the running for $1,000. Here comes the keyword.
Right now, here's your chance to win $1,000. Just enter this nationwide keyword on a stock. That's stock. Enter it now.
Stock. You could get $1,000 and you just buy some stock. Buy some iHeartMedia stock. That's always good. Maybe that's what I'll do. We got some of that, I think. It is 6:21. That means the eclipse in totality goes until 6:26. We got about 4 or 5 minutes left in the total phase of this total lunar eclipse, which they're actually calling, Shannon. Every one of these moons, you know how every day has like this is National Paperclip Day. Every moon also. This is the total super moon flower. They're calling it the flower moon, super moon total eclipse. And it's also a blood moon, by the way, because the eclipse makes the moon look red. So it's a super moon, flower moon, blood moon, total lunar eclipse. Lunar eclipse.
Yeah, I don't think I passed this part in science growing up in middle school.
Well, and when I was in middle school, they called it the moon. It's like, oh, that's a full moon. Okay, no, that's a super moon.
I remember specifically like the cloud tests with all the different clouds and then like the different shadings of the moon. And then you had to like write in what that, and nope. Didn't do so hot.
Enjoy the eclipse. Now back to sports. Also being eclipsed, and we haven't heard yet, and this was a big deal yesterday, and I think it continues to be a big deal, and we're going to talk about it today. Jalen Smith, Dallas Cowboys linebacker, now that the new rules have been relaxed and that a linebacker can wear any number he wants in the NFL if his team agrees, between number 1 and I believe 59, or it might even be 69. I'll have to look that up. I don't have it right in front of me. He wants to go back to his college number, Shannon, and as you well know, his college number is number 9, Tony Romo's old number. And there were photos yesterday of Jalen Smith at Dallas Cowboys OTAs wearing the number 9. How do you feel about this?
It is strange to see someone not named Tony Romo wear that number, and a guy that's also not a quarterback wear that number. But he said he's been number 9 since he was 9, and so he always wanted to get back to that. And he must have wanted to really get back to it, because in order to make that switch, he had to buy up all the inventory of his previous jersey, number 54, which apparently cost somewhere in the mid 6 figures.
Wow, that's crazy. I didn't realize.
We've heard of, when Carson Wentz, when he goes to the Colts and he is considering keeping with his old number 11, but that he has to have a conversation with another player about paying for it. That player doesn't want to be paid for that number, so he ultimately goes elsewhere. But we've heard where players have, made those trades, and Tom Brady, did something to get number 12 when he went to the Bucks. So this is new in that, hey, yeah, go ahead, change your number, but you are responsible for buying all the jersey inventory we have of you already printed. That's crazy. When you think of the Cowboys too, and all the money they make anyway, that's probably chump change at that point.
And I'm going to Tony Romo's Twitter right now just to make sure, but at last time I checked, we haven't heard from Tony Romo on this. And you would think, have you heard from him?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. Okay. So here's my thing. Well, my thinking is if he didn't care, he would have just put a tweet out and said, Jalen, wear it well. Hey, Jalen, the fact that he didn't, because the subtle little message here to Tony Romo from the Cowboys is, you're not Troy and you're not Roger. Roger delivered 2 Super Bowls. Troy delivered 3. Tony, you didn't do it, because as we know, and this was a lot of people talked about this yesterday, there are certain the Cowboys don't officially retire jerseys, but nobody's wearing number 12. Nobody's wearing Troy's number 8. Nobody wears Emmett's number 22 anymore, and nobody wears Bob Lilly's number 74. So the little message to Tony here is, because Jerry Jones, who is like a dad to Tony Romo, could have said, Jalen, love you. We're not going to do this. It's not going to make any news. That's Tony Romo's number. Now is not the time. Jerry or Stephen Jones could have intervened. They did not. Shannon, do you see this as a subtle or not so subtle diss to Tony Romo?
I don't know that it's a diss, because it's not like he really won you anything. He was just Jerry's boy.
Yeah.
Was his claim to fame. So I know that's our poll question today, actually asking if should Tony Romo's number 9 join Aikman's number 8 and Staubach's number 12 and so forth. Is the off limits to players, yes or no? Everyone's voting no right now. And I have to say, I agree. And to your point on social media, I just checked his as well. He hasn't been active on Twitter since 2020, and he hasn't posted on Instagram since January. So I wouldn't read too much into it just because he's not an active guy there. He's probably off filming his commercials. But
wouldn't you, I mean, even, and he's media conscious, as we are, he must know that this is a story and that it's, I mean, wouldn't you, even if you're not going to tweet, wouldn't you just get in front of a camera somewhere and say, go Jalen, all right, go Cowboys. I don't know.
I wouldn't be surprised if it hurts him the same way it hurt him to see Dak take over his spot.
Yeah. People are prideful. And all right. We'll talk a lot more about that. 3 NBA finals last night. We'll get into those. 3 NBA playoff games tonight. Astros get clobbered by the Dodgers. Astros have lost 4 in a row. We'll talk Astros baseball coming up. The high five play of the day. Always something good to talk about in the world of sports. Somebody deserves a high five. You're going to find out who it is a little bit later. In the 7 o'clock hour, Shannon's Salty Shakedown, sports history, sports birthdays. The moon has just moved out of totality, but the partial eclipse continues. Bill Schoening, the voice of the Spurs, will talk NBA playoffs with us just after 8 o'clock. We're with you till 9. I haven't even introduced Dave Ayler yet, your soundscape stylist. We'll do that in the next segment. She's Shannon Salty Sweeney. I'm Chris. Thanks for hanging out with us. We appreciate it. You're listening to the Chris Duel Show. Oh, I went late on that segment. Sorry about that. My bad. I am too long-winded. I blame it on the eclipse. Steve
Okay, Randall, so you want him to get his jersey retired or not be touchable because he overachieved for where he came from? He still didn't win you anything. I don't know of anyone who got a participation jersey retirement.
But also, though, the argument is statistically, he put up, some people put up his numbers and go, look, statistically, he's better than Roger or Troy. I disagree with that. But yeah, statistically, he had a really good career.
When you think of the best players, you don't sit there and look at their statistics. You look at their rings and their MVPs, and their championship wins, for which he has none.
No, and I think as a Cowboy quarterback, more than anything else, that's your job. Deliver. Yes. I mean, Dak is going to face the same thing. If Dak doesn't deliver a Super Bowl. You're not in the special fraternity. I always tell that story, Shannon. I was at the Drew Pearson Ring of Honor party, and everybody's flocking around Dorsett. Everybody's flocking around Drew. Robert Newhouse, who has since passed, was there. Cliff Harris, and I saw a dude at a table all alone with a drink, and I recognized it was Danny White, and it was just a weird moment. And I'm sure there was times when people hung out and took pictures with Danny White, but in that moment, he's just alone at a table in like a hotel party room, banquet room that was rented out for this thing. And it's like part of the reason he's Danny White. You didn't deliver what you were supposed to deliver, Danny.
Yeah. Randall, you're saying so Marino wasn't great. Marino won an AFC championship game to get to the Super Bowl.
And several like passing titles and passing records.
Tony got nothing.
I'm going to grab coffee. Do I have time? Yes, I do. I'll be right back. Coffee! I need coffee!
If you're a stat leader for the league at the end of the year, and get an award for it, add to your trophy case. Carl, I think Tony's good making millions of dollars being a broadcaster. He could probably get into the Hall of Fame as a broadcaster. Patrick, I did not see a clip of Luka and Patrick. Was Patrick at the game? I didn't see that game was on. I don't have NBA TV.
You know who was at that game? Dirk. A lot of cutaways to Dirk.
I'll look for it though.
Don Holding, aka Haas, what is up? Good to see you. Good to see you, Don. Carl Fisher, Patrick Hart, Randall De Leon, Greg Helt, Alan Green, Laura Burris, good morning. Eric Winchester. Wow, Eric, that's a good question. Chris, if you traveled back to 1997 and had to pick Pop or Duncan, who would you pick to ensure the most amount of Spurs success? Wow. Eric, thank God we got them both, first of all. That was some beautiful synergy. But, I mean, you have to pick Duncan. I mean, Pop will tell you these championships don't happen without Tim Duncan. He's, one of the 5 greatest players of all time. So I'd hate to have another coach here. Are we to assume Bob Hill would have been in place? But yeah, you would. I mean, Tim Duncan is the man. It's a great, intriguing question, and I'm a huge Popovich guy. I mean, absolutely huge. So it pains me to answer a question like that where I don't answer with the name Pop. Alan Green with you on Romo as a color guy.
Patrick, if you tagged Chris, I don't see Chris's tags. But I did see it. I think I've seen like Mahomes' brother at those games too for the Mavs. So, and they're from Texas.
Yeah, Shannon, I just saw I glanced at the shakedown and I didn't make the connection that Jalen Smith was one of them. So my apologies for.
No, it's good. I couldn't tell how big of a story or not.
Yeah.
Because I try to go for those a little more hidden. So
yeah.
We'll switch it. It's fine. Okay. I think that's a fun one too.
Well, and normally if I see something, I try to consciously avoid it until the shakedown. So anyway, that's just lack of focus and sleep on my part.
No, because clearly your poll question here has drummed up quite the conversation.
Okay. Well, I wonder what that final percentage is going to be. 98. I mean, there'll probably be a couple of throwaway yes votes, but I mean, if we had more choices, I wanted to do something like whose jerseys should be off limits. I mean, I obviously think Troy and Roger, Emmett, and Bob Lilly, but are there others beyond that? And at what point do you, and they don't officially retire jerseys, but at one point, are you retiring too many jerseys? I don't know.
Carl Bobon also is currently featured in Goldfish advertisement commercials. They're pretty funny. It's got the biggest bag of goldfish you've ever seen. And I mean bigger than the ones you get from a Costco.
Before the high five, we'll talk to Dave Ayler here. I should have introduced him in the first segment. Another oversight on my part. I blame the eclipse. It's the eclipse. It's lunacy. It's the lunar eclipse, which is a full moon, but it's magnified in its lunacy by the eclipse. It's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Here we come. Yeah. Do you feel it? We have come out of the total lunar eclipse. There are astrologers, medicine men and women. I'm sure there are indigenous shamans around the world seeing meaning in what this total lunar eclipse means. Hopefully it means that it will be a total eclipse of the heart for Kawhi Leonard and the Los Angeles Clippers. It's bad, Shannon, when I watch the NBA playoffs and I'm pulling against somebody. You know, when the Spurs are in, I'm pulling for the Spurs. Now I'm pulling against Kawhi.
I feel like you and Spurs country, y'all need closure. You never got complete closure.
No.
There's a lot of questions left unanswered.
Yeah.
I never apologized. He just kind of walked away.
It's like being in a marriage and you thought the marriage was going well, and your significant other just one day you come home from work and she or he left. It's
I thought we were at least going to work on it. Thought we were going to try.
We were soulmates. I thought, we went to the championship together in 2014 and 13 and won it in 14. But no. All right. Before we move on, and we'll all feel a lot better in a moment because the high five play of the day is moments away. But as I often do, I neglected to introduce the man for whom this entire broadcast would not happen because he engineers it. He is the soundscape stylist, studio coordinator, and if you see him on Facebook Live right now, he is proudly wearing his 2019 Stanley Cup champion St. Louis Blues t-shirt. Dave Ayler, how are you this morning?
I'm doing really good, Chris. Yesterday you complained that my shirt didn't have any writing on it, so I went and found a shirt that had as much writing as I can fit on the front of the shirt.
And that's quite the when your team wins I remember when the Spurs won their first title, that first Spurs championship t-shirt, it's something magical when you get that and when you wear that. Does that shirt, among all, you got a lot of t-shirts, sports and concerts and bands, does that t-shirt have a special place in your life?
Oh yeah, it was their first Stanley Cup win. That they had been in the Stanley Cup Finals 3 times before that and lost. So finally getting a win was nice, and I was there, so which was even better.
That is so cool that you were there.
Yeah, if you're there, you have to get the shirt.
Exactly. And I was thinking that since we're supposed to be wearing stuff written on our shirts, why don't the salespeople sell it? Say hey, we could wear client shirts or and give us some cash, or
there you go.
You can advertise your business on Dave's man boobs.
Yeah.
It's 6:30, Dave.
Very beautiful. All right. Thank you, Mr. Dave. I got to ask Shannon, though. All right. St. Louis Blues won the championship. Dave Ayler got the t-shirt. Spurs won their first championship in 1999. I got the t-shirt. Shannon, when the Mavs did win the championship, did you get a commemorative Dallas Mavericks first ever NBA champions t-shirt?
I did. Prior to I got the Western Conference Finals championship shirt.
Yes.
And then I was very close to Academy where I watched that game. So I went to Academy following that win for the championship. I guess because we're in Austin, they weren't ready for me. So I had to actually wait a couple days before I could snag a championship shirt. But I did. And I feel like it was one of those classic ones where the trophy is on there and it's I don't know what you call it, like the flat iron kind of plasticky feeling.
Yeah.
And so you could just, every time you move, like the whole trophy moves with you. I think Dave's is a nice, just keep it simple.
Yeah.
Just name, champion, year.
Yep. But it is so cool that the three of us have experienced that when your team wins the championship. And then there's an official t-shirt and then going and I did too. Academy sold the Spurs gear down here as well. That's where I got mine originally. back in '99. All right. We love doing this. We do it at this time in this segment every morning, usually in the world of sports, but not always. But it is today. It is the High Five Play of the Day. And it's not just the name of the segment. It is the name of a cool place, actually 2 locations in the Austin area that Shannon hangs out at, and you should too. Tell us a little bit about High Five, Shannon.
Yeah, well, today is Wednesday, which means we've got all day happy hour and half price arcade games. So another great day to get out to either Lakeway or the Anderson Lane location of High Five. I played some arcade games following the Austin FC game on Sunday. I did a little bit of clown. I don't know what you call it, but I knocked over a bunch of clowns.
Knocking over
That
clowns.
was fun because I hate clowns. And then I did like the Papa Shot. Because I'm a former hooper. I was very sore after shooting as many balls as I did, but so much fun. Had a lot of fun with my friends doing that. I highly recommend it. Today's High Five, it's going across the pond to a Manchester United player by the name of Marcus Rushford. He's 23 years old, and he's already a hero to that organization and that area of Great Britain. 23 years old. He has donated now over $28 million to help with food and food hunger and food poverty in the area. That's more than his net worth. He has always been very big on this cause since he's joined Manchester. And so he donated money, and then through that, other people were so inspired that they donated money. So he's now topped the giving list, which over there is the metric of philanthropy in Great Britain. And he's the youngest one to do so at just 23 years old. He's also, during the pandemic, when the government over there was considering getting rid of lunches for kids while they were no longer at school, a lot of those kids needed those lunches. That was how they ate most of their meals, right? So he put forth great effort in order to keep those lunches around. So he's obviously very into the cause of food hunger and making sure those that are especially children have the nutrition they need to grow and to learn. And so this is just fantastic. I mean, giving more than his personal net worth.
Yeah.
He's 23 years old. Imagine the good that will continue to come from this young man. He's a great goal scorer for Manchester United, but clearly an amazing human being, a great guy to get to say he's on your team. So the ultimate of high fives across the pond. We're giving one to you, Mr. Marcus Rashford.
I'm not a big, but I'm willing to. I'm not a big international soccer guy. I know people have their favorite international soccer teams.
Hard with the time difference.
Yeah, it's harder with the time. I mean, I'm sort of, you can see I'm wearing a Beatles hat, so I kind of Liverpool. It's like, all right, the Beatles are from Liverpool, so maybe. But I got to tell you, and I love this story, Shannon. Marcus Rashford, as you mentioned, 23 years old. I might have to just start paying attention, A, to Manchester United, and B, just because of him. Marcus Rashford, I think, and I relate this to David Robinson in San Antonio. There was a time when they calculated all of the giving of professional athletes, at least American pro athletes. And there was a time, and maybe he's still on top, where David Robinson personally gave more than any other athlete. And of course, part of what he did, he built the Carver Academy to educate underprivileged kids in the San Antonio area. But then apparently, and I saw an interview with David Robinson less than a year ago, that's now morphed into, I don't even know, there's something like 80 schools across the South that David Robinson is responsible for building. So whether it's David Robinson, or in this case, across the pond, Marcus Rashford, who's only 23 from Manchester United, I just love that when an athlete, and you don't have to be an athlete, you could be you right now, whatever you do, you use your platform for good and try to just make the world a better place. That's fantastic. Yeah.
And
that's
again,
so cool.
To emphasize, 23.
Gosh.
23 years old. Good for him, good for that organization, and good for those fans for seeing what he did and joining in and helping to donate for that. And you mentioned international soccer. You got to watch Ted Lasso on Apple TV.
I do,
because it's soccer and American football, because he's an American football coach who goes overseas to coach a football club. It's hilarious.
I see nothing but rave reviews for Ted Lasso. Yeah. I do have Apple TV Plus, so I got to do it. Speaking of which, just a couple of quick, since you went there on Ted Lasso, two things. Also on Apple Plus TV now is a documentary on 1971 from a music perspective. I think the title is something along the lines of 1971, how music changed everything. Or anyway, it's the Rolling Stones, the Doors, the Beatles, John Lennon, everybody, Aretha Franklin. It's brilliant, and as bizarre as the world is right now, and I was a kid in 1971, I forgot how dark, the Vietnam War, violence, racism, how dark the world was in 1971. And so many of these musicians stood up and said, and Marvin Gaye with the album What's Going On, which just celebrated its 50th anniversary, was a big part of it. So anyway, I highly recommend that on Apple Plus TV. And I know you've got HBO Max, Shannon, Mayor of Easttown, starring Kate Winslet. Have you looked at that yet?
I have seen the trailers. Is it almost over? Because
one episode left.
I purposely have not watched it because I feel like I would start watching it and want more episodes.
Yeah.
So I purposely kind of let it finish out so I can then.
You need to binge it. It is so damn good. And I think it's a total of 6 episodes. I think this will be episode 6, but there's like 3 episodes, and I'm not giving anything away here, like 3, 4, and 5, that at the end of each episode, your jaw is, something happens. It's a twist, and your jaw you go, oh my God. Okay. I can't believe that. So anyway,
I feel better about my decision to wait, knock it all out at once then.
Oh, I would have loved to have it drives me crazy too. Yeah. And with each one of these twists, there's all these, it's like, damn, I got to wait a week now to find out. But anyway, Kate Winslet, who a lot of people will remember originally from her role in Titanic, as the love interest, as the main character in Titanic. And what's so amazing, she plays like a Pennsylvania, Philadelphia-ish detective, an American. Doesn't seem like a Brit at all. I see a lot of British actors who are so good at just playing Americans with no accent whatsoever. But highly, highly, highly recommend Mayor of Easttown on HBO Max.
All right, good.
So there's that.
Because I don't know anyone else who's watched it. I've just seen the rave reviews, and it's Kate Winslet.
It's Kate Winslet.
It's probably going to be pretty good.
Yeah, I've seen a few people now raving about it on Facebook also. And I go, I'm with you. I get it. I'm totally there. All right, back to a little bit on this, and I imagine we'll be revisiting it now and then throughout the morning, just because I think it's an interesting story. The Jalen Smith, Dallas Cowboys linebacker, making it official, changing his number to number 9, which is Tony Romo's number. And Shannon, you were having a very passionate discussion with people during the break on Facebook Live, because a lot of people say, hey, Tony Romo was a great quarterback. The argument is statistically, and there are people who they go, hey man, look at his numbers versus Roger Staubach's numbers. They go, and they say Romo was a better quarterback. No, completely different era. They go, well, look at his numbers versus Aikman's numbers. Obviously, Romo played in more of a passing era than Roger, and even more than Troy Aikman. But your point is, and again, but there are numbers. The Cowboys don't officially retire numbers, but Aikman's 8, Rogers 12, Emmett's 22, and Bob Lilly's 74 have not been passed out to anybody. So they're unofficially retired jersey numbers. But your point, Shannon, has been Romo, you didn't do anything to warrant your jersey being retired or off limits.
Yeah. And I mean, you won a couple NFC East championships, but how hard was that?
Well,
I mean, if we went back to look at them, I mean, this season we were just above 8-8. Congratulations.
A couple of he had the 13-3 year, and God kills me. They had home field throughout the playoffs, and the Giants, the wild card Giants, beat them. So
it's not enough. When you look up at like ring of honors and things like that, you see a name, you go, okay, he won a Heisman, he won a national championship, he won a Super Bowl, whatever. You're not going to look at Tony Romo. You're going to be like, well, he had this exact number of passing yards throughout his career, and no. That's not how they do it. That's not how they do it. We're not trying to like bash on Tony. Like, he's obviously was a great player, just not great enough to have his jersey retired.
And
officially, unofficially, whatever.
And you've got to, and we've talked about it, Shannon. We haven't heard from Tony Romo on this. Our guess is maybe his feelings are a little hurt. If you are the quarterback of the Cowboys, you've got the shadow of Roger and the shadow of Troy.
Mhm.
I mean, all the fans expect you to do. And when you didn't deliver it, and I know Romo's got a great life now,
Yeah.
but I still
wiping away his tears with money.
yeah, but I got to believe it gnaws at. It's got to at night now and then gnaw at him that he didn't get a Super Bowl as a Cowboy quarterback. I'm just saying.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, and he was a competitor too, so it's
Yeah. And there are people who will say, hey, man, Jerry Jones didn't surround him with enough talent.
Yeah. But again, that's still not a reason to like throw him in to the shrine.
Agreed. We'll talk more about that. We'll talk NBA playoffs. 3 results from last night, 3 more games tonight. Astros lose 9-2 to the Dodgers. Makes me sick. Astros have lost 4 in a row. Lots coming at you in the 7 o'clock hour. The Salty Shakedown, sports history, sports birthdays, and more. She's Shannon Salty Sweeney. He's Dave Ayler. I'm Chris. Thanks for hanging. It's the Chris Duel Show. All right. Jason Paniagua, good morning. Jorge. I'm with you on Kawhi, Jorge, but not the Dodgers. But if you're a Dodger fan, these are good times for you. They may go back to back. Yeah, Don, Walt Garrison was a badass, as you know. I read somewhere Walt Garrison is having some dementia issues, that he's got like a son caring for him or something. That's just awful. Man, I loved Walt Garrison. My friend Steve Duraco, who was in here earlier, and when Walt did the skull commercial, I started dipping snuff as a kid because of Walt Garrison. Well, Walt Garrison does it. This must be cool. All right, Jorge, I get you there. I remember the LA Dodgers. I saw Steve Sachs and Fernando Valenzuela play at VJ Keefe Field. That's right. Earl Campbell did do some Skull commercials. Don, I forgot about that, which was brilliant on the part of Skull. Yeah, Shannon, I just answered your question in that chat about lunch. I'm good at any time. Anytime you want is fine with me.
Chris, were you on the meeting yesterday?
I tried for 25 minutes to get on it. I couldn't get on it.
Me neither.
I did a video to document at 2:25. I did a video of me trying to get on the. I'm saying I'm trying this. No, so did you have the technical issue?
So I tried my phone first, and for whatever reason on my phone, the link was like, this isn't a valid link. So I got on the computer, and it took about 15 minutes, and then it finally timed out and said, try again. You can't get into this. And I tried, and it just kept black screen with the loading.
Same thing.
I did get an email afterwards about, here's your free item. Go select it.
I didn't even see that.
They sent out for and it's all like I Heart Jingle Ball.
Yeah.
Crew swag, which is fine because it's free. I'm like, this is just old stuff no one's gonna buy.
Yeah. But yeah, I started at like 5 till 2. I tried to log and it wasn't working. I tried everything. And finally at 2:25, I videoed what was good. Because in case Brian or somebody goes, how come you blew off the meeting? It's like, I didn't blow it off. I tried.
Yeah. Heather here, she was texting me throughout it because she got in, but she said it took her 15 minutes to get in. I was like, I can't even get in.
Yeah. So was there any special big revelation that I'm supposed to know about in the meeting?
No, they,
All right.
Talked about the sacrifices made and podcasting, how important that is.
Okay.
And diversity training. So I don't know.
Clearly
coming our way, but
yeah. Let's see. Here we come.
This is the Chris Duel Show. Now, Chris Duel.
Welcome in on a Wednesday, May 26th, midway through the week. Lots of NBA action last night, including the Dallas Mavericks defeating the Los Angeles Clippers. That series got to be the one biggest shocker so far in the NBA playoffs. For the Clippers to be down 0-2, both of those games lost on their home court at Staples Center in Los Angeles. So that series will now shift back to Dallas, and the Clippers' chore now is going to be win 4 out of 5 games to survive that series, and they would have to win 2 of the 3 games that are in Dallas on the road, where I would imagine that Dallas crowd, as Texas opens up and more people can attend sporting events, is going to be quite formidable in Dallas. It's the Chris Duel Show, along with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Dave Ayler is your soundscape stylist. Coming up at 20 after, another grand in your hand cash contest giveaway in 1 hour. Bill Schoening, the voice of the San Antonio Spurs, going to join us. We'll talk NBA playoffs and more with Bill. You can join us along the way as well, either on Facebook Live or on the phone line, 707-9760, 800-707-9760. And it was speaking, Shannon, about my expectation that American Airlines Center will be rocking for the Dallas Mavericks when they come back to play their next 2 games against the Clippers. NFL announces yesterday as well, they are allowing full fan attendance at NFL training camps this summer, and they will be allowing full fan attendance at all stadiums for the National Football League. So, obviously 2020 was rocked in the sports world and in our lives by the pandemic, but it just another indicator that at least in this country, in the world of sports, we are pulling out of this thing.
Yeah, it's looking good. I feel like we're heading in the right direction. It looks like I'm looking at the American Airlines Center right now, and they're actually going to have vaccination sites outside of ACC. So if you're heading to the game and you have yet to receive your shot, they will have a place for you to do that. So let's win-win. And like you said, NFL. We had last week Texas announcing all outdoor sporting events would be at 100% capacity. So it doesn't surprise me that the NFL has said. Is it every team, or are there like 1 or 2 teams that aren't part of it? Is LA maybe still?
That is, I had heard it reported as every team, but that's a good question, because I know California, at least until recently, has had stricter restrictions.
Yeah. And training camp is interesting too, because when you think about training camp, I mean, it's just a bunch of people kind of standing along the side, all kind of mushed together.
Yeah.
And it's hot. You've been to the Houston training camps, right? I mean, it's
God.
hot, sweat, just so, hey, if that's something you're into prior to the pandemic, go for it. I'm all here for it.
Yeah. And it's, if you're a fan, it's fun. I've gone to a number of Cowboys training camps over the years, some in Oxnard, way back in the Landry era when I lived in Southern California and went to USC. The Cowboys trained in Thousand Oaks, California, which is a little north of Los Angeles. It was just, it's when that's your team, in the case of the Cowboys, just to see your guys out there and to be that close to them. And, back then, I think there still is a pretty decent access for fans.
Yeah.
That players will come up to the rope line and sign autographs and do stuff. So it's if you can do it, it's a fun experience.
Yeah. If you're a fan, it's probably the most interaction you'll get to have with players. Because during the season, it's not quite the same.
They got a job to do. Yes. And we've talked a lot about the Tokyo Olympics, and a bit of news. an International Olympic Committee member and a pretty high-profile one. His name is Dick Pound. You may have heard of him, and that is his name. He says that cancellation of the Tokyo Olympics is off the table. He says a bubble environment seems like the safest way to execute the games, but complete safety is something that can never be guaranteed. But as a spokesperson for the International Olympic Committee, he is saying canceling the games is off the table. Now, I don't know if local Tokyo organizers or local government could override that. I mean, I would imagine if the people who administer the government in Tokyo and in Japan, if they really didn't want it, I would imagine they could shut it down. But from a pretty big dude in the IOC, now he is saying it's going to happen. So, as a fan and just looking again, we mentioned this, Shannon. You pulled it off in Orlando a year ago for the NBA. Obviously, the Olympics a much bigger scale than the NBA finals and the NBA playoffs, but I think it's a pretty good case study for what can be done. So just as a fan, we talked about Simone Biles earlier in the week, just how great she is performing. Obviously, I want to see Coach Greg Popovich lead Team USA to the gold medal and just everything that surrounds the Olympics and the magic that makes the Olympics what it is. I will be very, very happy if this thing comes off.
Yeah, I'm hoping they do find a way that they, when they do it, there's not some disastrous moment at some, like an outbreak of some sort, that they do find a way almost bubble like to pull this off. And you mentioned him saying at this point it's off the table, that it's canceled. There some sponsors are now, big sponsors for Tokyo specifically have decided, we're not going to support this, which I get financially is probably a hit, but it's nothing that pales in comparison to them just calling off everything. I mean, you think of how much it costs to host an Olympics, and then they had to extend it for another year. Yeah, they're in it pretty deep, and I think financially, I mean, you mentioned the government. I'm sure the government's probably on the side, as bad as it is to say, of the making money at this point.
Yes, I mean, you're so right. Economically, it would be a huge hit for it to be canceled. And the flip side of that is if you can pull it off, even though, as you mentioned, some sponsors have pulled out, you're going to make some money. And a lot of people who have invested a lot of money and are in the red here can make a significant amount of that money back. So on so many levels, I hope that happens.
And we've seen, Olympics being held in other places around the world, and even World Cups where they've built all these stadiums, and then 10 years later, those stadiums are in ruins. They're overgrown with plants. A lot of them end up never being used again. Some of them just a handful of times. So that even more so is like these, some of those areas probably aren't going to be taking in, they're not going to be concert venues. They're not going to host any other sports other than this one thing. So they need it while they have it. And certainly, they've already clearly, if canceling is off the table, I would assume postponing is now off the table as well, which again, doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah. And it is so weird. And I've seen what you're describing, like in Rio de Janeiro, they build all these facilities for the Olympics and so much money gets poured in, and then the Olympics leave. And you have a city with all of these venues, many of them sparkling new venues that you've built, and you don't have sporting events or concerts to put in. I economically, I don't know how that happens. I don't know where they get the investment and then build them and then to see them go away. It would seem to me the Olympics should come up with a better model of going into a country like in the United States. I mean, we've got so many facilities, and instead of just saying the Olympics are in Los Angeles, why can't you have them in a country in multiple venues or arenas or fields across the country? Might make more sense as instead of one city having to build all this infrastructure that then goes away.
I mean, almost like a World Cup, right? It takes place in a country.
Yeah.
And depending on that size of the country, that could be really rough on the players. I know when I think Canada hosted the last Women's World Cup, and that was a lot of travel from one province to the next. But also that's a tournament with a lot fewer teams and players, and it's like 6 weeks. But I agree. And then you mentioned LA. I think they're hosting the 2024 Summer Olympics?
I think so.
But you think that of that city, I mean, all the stadiums that they already have, if
Yeah.
they don't want to build anything else, they don't have to because they have it all already. Which
I
think
was-
was part of their bid, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And especially now with SoFi, what a
Oh yeah.
glistening stadium that is. Yeah. I was in Los Angeles in 1984 when they had the 1984 Olympics, which were really, really cool. And part of that was Muhammad Ali, carrying the flame and lighting the flame at the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum. I remember I lived near Venice Beach at the time, and the Olympic marathon, the Olympic women's marathon came like right by us. So you're standing out there and you're watching these Olympic marathoners run by. So it is, LA's done it. They did it in 1932. They did it in 1984. And obviously, now that they've got even more facilities now. And for Summer Olympics, the weather, other than the smog, the air quality is not that good. But weather-wise in the summertime, LA, it's like 72, 74 degrees. Whereas if you had it in, Austin or San Antonio summertime, we might be around 100. So a lot of upside doing it in LA.
When you were there, I mean, did they give like locals access early or advantages to tickets or seeing events?
You had, if you got in line and got tickets, because it was 1984, it wasn't as insane. The secondary market for tickets, the way it is now with ticket brokers, had not exploded yet. So you knew it was, so like in 1983, you knew the Olympics are coming next year. So it's like, okay, I want to see Olympic basketball, or I want to see track and field at the Coliseum because I know Carl Lewis is going to be a big sprinter for Team USA. So you were able to just, go to venues in Los Angeles where you could buy Olympic tickets in advance.
Okay.
But now, I mean, that was even, for God's sake, I'm so old. That was pre-internet. So, the entire way you would acquire tickets was different. And now I would imagine with the secondary market, and ticket brokers gobbling everything up in advance. And now, we talk about people willing to pay insane amounts of money to see these high profile events that I wonder, for the average person, can you afford whatever it is?
The
$6,000 to see an event.
The U.S. women's national team coming in early June to play at Q2 Stadium, and those tickets I think go on sale later this week. But secondhand markets apparently already have some, and they're going for like for a family of 4 to go, it's like $1,500.
Wow.
I'm like, I went and saw this team right after they won a World Cup in San Antonio. Like me and my dad went, and it was like maybe $200. Like, come on.
Yeah, it's just it's a little ridiculous. But then then the flip side of that argument is what the market will bear. I mean, if you are Q2 Stadium, if you're putting on the event, and there are people willing to pay that kind of money. And that's what's really kind of interesting about Austin FC and Q2. And you've talked about this. It's not that big. So it's kind of exclusive. And how long is the waiting list now for Austin FC?
Over 21,000.
My God. But yet, and again, from an economic perspective, wouldn't it make sense to have a bigger stadium and be selling those tickets?
That's that 21,000, that stadium doesn't even hold 21,000 people.
Yeah.
At least for soccer.
So you got to wonder, I know when they built in San Antonio, Gordon Hartman, who's a friend of mine, built Toyota Field, which is where the original San Antonio Scorpions played, and it's now San Antonio FC. But the idea was to hopefully someday be MLS. So they built Toyota Field so it was expandable. It's like, all right, here's the footprint of the stadium. If we ever seriously have a shot at MLS, we can expand the capacity and expand the stadium to MLS specs. I wonder for Q2 Stadium if they have, and if not, it should have made sense if they realized how wildly successful Austin FC would be, to be able to build another 10,000 seats to expand that stadium would make sense.
So on our tour, they did show us an area where they can and will eventually expand. But it's not gonna cover the 21,000 people that are currently in line.
So there's something about demand. Scarcity can be a big selling thing. It apparently is and will be for Austin FC. Speaking of money and scarcity, How about $1,000? That could go toward getting some women's soccer tickets if you win. Grand in your hand cash contest. We do it on the 20s. We do it on this show 6:20 and 7:20. It is 7:20 right now. We do it 12 times throughout the day. So be listening. You'll have multiple shots to get $1,000. You're going to get a keyword right now. Take it to the website, either AM 1300 The Zone or Ticket 760, and you are in the running for $1,000. Here's the keyword.
Right now, here's your chance to win $1,000. Just enter this nationwide keyword on our website.
Good morning, Lucinda.
Summer. Enter it now.
Summer. That's a good keyword. Bring on summer. Memorial Day weekend upon us. Apparently, Shannon, and I want to thank Dave Ayler for his crack research on crack for provide. I didn't know about this story. There is a high school in Comfort, Texas. Comfort, not far from San Antonio, not far from Austin. It's 50 miles northwest of San Antonio is Comfort, Texas. Half of the senior class is being suspended. They are serving in-class suspensions and are having their senior privileges revoked because they have pulled a senior prank. They forked. Got to enunciate that on radio. They forked the football field. Do you know, Shannon, what forking a football field is?
I mean, I would assume that's just you take forks and you stick them in the ground.
Yes. I was not aware. Apparently, they used plastic forks.
Yeah.
So it would kind of suck if they all brought metal forks from their home kitchens. But apparently, 40 seniors have now been suspended. It's got parents outraged. A lot of them are high-profile seniors, including the valedictorian and campus leaders. But they have to serve an in-school suspension for 2 weeks. It was a senior prank. 2 weeks. It was apparently a senior prank. But it's got like local parents up in arms. They've started Facebook pages. A Facebook page, Free the Forking Seniors. Fork. That's fork. So
this is insane. So my old high school now, they recently redid the field and the track, so they now have gates around it. So, and you're not supposed to bring a dog, and you're really not supposed to play on the actual field unless you're part of an AISD, whatever.
Yeah.
So I get it, because schools and their, overseeing faculty, like, they only have so much money to put into these kind of things, and they want to keep them as nice as possible. But come on.
Yeah.
Especially Comfort, Texas. Where is that? I can't imagine the field was super nice to begin with.
Oh, it's Texas. People love their football. It might be super nice.
I'm picturing like an out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
In the spring. It probably hasn't really been taken care of. Who cares? Like, I don't think my class did anything, but I remember, I think it was 2 years ahead of me. The classes had colors. So if you were a senior, you were red, juniors purple, sophomores orange, freshmen green. So the seniors put red dye in the fish tank in the library.
Okay. I hope they didn't kill the fish.
They did, because they did not read the dye.
That's not good.
So they got in trouble for that, but they certainly were suspended for 2 weeks.
No. Well, and wouldn't the solution be, hey kids, go pick up the forks?
Yeah, just make them pick up the forks.
And if you don't pick up the forks, then we're going to suspend you. But get your butts onto the field 7 a.m, and everybody, let's start picking up the forks.
And you think of all like the things that they could have done, and that's what they went with.
Yeah,
Come on.
Do some big.
They didn't harm anybody. They didn't go haze the juniors, the rising seniors.
They didn't kill any fish. No fish were killed.
No fish were killed.
Yeah. So, Comfort suspended seniors, our hearts are with you. We'll try to learn more about the forking seniors in Comfort, Texas. There you have it. All right, coming up, Shannon's Salty Shakedown. Maybe someday the forking seniors will make it into the Salty Shakedown. Shannon's radar, Shannon's salty view of the sports world is coming your way. We'll take a look at this day in sports history. We'll take a look at sports birthdays. Coming up just after 8 o'clock, we will talk NBA playoffs with the great Bill Schoening, voice of the San Antonio Spurs, longtime previous voice of the Texas Longhorns, Bill Schoening. I at some point don't want to, but we'll have to talk Houston Astros. Astros got bombarded by the Dodgers last night, 9-2. Astros have lost 4 in a row. Hopefully, they got one more game tonight against the Dodgers. Hopefully, they can right that ship. And also, Anthony Davis went a little Draymond Green last night, kicking an opponent in the groin while elevating on a jump shot. Some people thinking Anthony Davis should have been tossed out of that game. We'll get into that as well. She is Shannon Salty Sweeney, getting ready for the Salty Shakedown. Dave Ayler, your soundscape stylist. I'm Chris. We're with you till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. Eric Winchester, $250 million in 84 is worth $642.5 million today. Chris Gonzalez says the Forking senior stole that pranking idea from an MTV show where the class did the same thing.
So apparently they also went into the school and left blown up balloons everywhere. And there's also a sign outside the school that said for sale.
See, well, that's kind of funny.
And the field is, I wouldn't even call it much of a field. It's just like a giant green space because there's no lines on it or anything.
Oh, really? Okay.
That's crazy. And the parents said they knew 100% what the kids were doing before they even did it.
Wow.
A local liquor store put up a sign that says, "Congrats, class of 2021. We're so forking proud."
We're forking proud.
Oh, the owner is the mom of the valedictorian of the school who's suspended.
The owner of the liquor store is the mom of the valedictorian? Wow.
Yeah.
I wonder how many valedictorians have a mom who owns a liquor store across the country. That sounds interesting.
Chris, I think the prongs on the sporks would be too short to get a good grip in the ground. Know what I'm saying?
Here we come. Chris Duel Show along with Shannon Salty Sweeney at nearly 7:35 in the morning on this Wednesday, May 26th. Dave Ayler, your soundscape stylist, wearing his 2019 Stanley Cup St. Louis Blues championship t-shirt. We talked a little championship t-shirt earlier. We hope that you have a team that won a championship. You probably do. If you're a Longhorns fan, you won one not long ago. Well, I guess that is Vince Young, I guess, is getting kind of long ago, but they win in every other sport.
Yeah, we got a tennis
They're
one over the weekend.
on fire. Might win a baseball national championship in the College World Series before it's all over. So whether it's Spurs, Longhorns, Mavericks, that's where Shannon got her championship t-shirt, or St. Louis Blues. That's a cool thing. Lots coming up between now and 9 o'clock. Coming up just after 8 o'clock, our good friend Bill Schoening, the voice of the San Antonio Spurs, his thoughts on the NBA playoffs that find the LA Clippers in an 0-2 hole. I'm kind of enjoying that. Thank you, Luka Doncic. And another reason to just like the Mavericks, Spurs fans, Boban. I'm just saying, I would like to see Boban advance. Coming up in just a moment, Shannon's Salty Shakedown. But first, sports and celebrity birthdays. I got a few celebrity birthdays. And right now, this day in sports history, May 26th, 1925, future Hall of Fame center fielder Ty Cobb is the first baseball player to collect 1,000 extra base hits when he doubles in the Detroit Tigers' 8-1 win against the Chicago White Sox at Comiskey Park. It's your first baseball player ever to have 1,000 extra base hits was Ty Cobb back in 1925. On this day in 1972, Smokin' Joe Frazier with a TKO over Ron Standler in 5 rounds to maintain his world heavyweight boxing title. This day in 2002, it was the Indianapolis 500. Helio Castroneves was your winner in 2002, and in 2013, also another Indy 500 day. Back in the day, Tony Kanon wins the 2013 Indianapolis 500. That's this day in sports history. Now a few sports birthdays. We often talk about broadcasters and sports panelists. Talk a lot about the TNT crew. Saw them again last night. One guy, very, very memorable, probably one of the biggest sports panel guys, at least one of the first in the NFL, because I think the NFL today was the first to do pregame the way they did it with this guy, Brent Mussberger. It was the NFL Today with Brent Mussberger, Irv Cross, and Phyllis George back in the 1970s. It was very, very cool. They kind of established a tradition for it. Brent Mussberger, born on this day in 1939. The NFL Today, he's worked with CBS, ESPN, ABC. He now does play-by-play for the Las Vegas Raiders, and he's got a gambling channel on Sirius XM. Brent Mussberger, born on this day in 1939 in Portland, Oregon. 10 years later, born on this day in 1949, longtime Houston Oilers quarterback, number 7, Dan Pastorini. Did not know that. Dan Pastorini, number 7. And finally, born on this day in 1955, Wesley Walker, NFL wide receiver with the Jets mainly, born in San Bernardino, California. 3 celebrity birthdays. Today, Lenny Kravitz turns 57. Hank Williams Jr., singer of Monday Night Football's theme song for many years. Hank Williams Jr. turns 72. And Stevie Nicks of Fleetwood Mac. Stevie Nicks turns 73 today. Happy birthday, everybody. If it's your birthday, happy birthday. That's sports birthdays and sports history. Now here it is. You've waited long enough. Your Salty Shakedown.
Had a lot of MLB injuries so far in the season, Chris. Not only to the Astros' pride as it goes up and down and up and then down one more time. Still a long season, Astros fans. We've had a gentleman be hit in the face with a 94 mile per hour fastball, to which he was only on the ground for 34 seconds compared to LeBron's 80 seconds for a poked eye. He'll be all right. His face needs some time, but he'll be all right. There's also a gentleman who has entered the injured reserve list for hurting himself while playing a video game, smashing his hand on the table and injuring his left hand, which is the hand he uses to throw the ball. That one was weird. We've got another one, Chris. Courtesy of the Cleveland Indians and pitcher Zach Pleesak. He is their number 2 pitcher, so not too shabby for as far as pitchers go, but he is now on the 10-day injured reserve list with no timetable for return after breaking his thumb, his right thumb, his throwing hand, his pitching hand. Do you want to guess maybe how he did it?
See, thumb.
Probably something baseball related, right?
Yeah, he just maybe on one of his pitches, maybe he rotated the hand violently and the ball came off the thumb, maybe something like, or maybe he caught a ball he wasn't supposed to catch that was hit back at his thumb.
That sounds a lot cooler than, quote, aggressively taking off his shirt.
Huh?
Yes, sir. You heard that correctly. This pitcher has a broken thumb from taking off his shirt too aggressively. I don't know what angle he was working with. I don't know if we were t-shirt, button down, maybe one of those like long sleeve kind of forward-fitting sweat, wick shirts that, those can be a little, you got to really maneuver the shoulders to get that over there. But aggressively removing your shirt ends up in an injury for a pitcher, number 2 pitcher for that team. And he's out for who knows how long. It's gotta be rough.
I have been a sports fan all my life. You and I, Shannon, we do this for a living. That is the weirdest sports injury. I have never heard of someone injuring themselves or their thumb by aggressively ripping off their shirt. That's crazy.
I mean, I need more details. Was he mad? What kind of shirt?
Wow.
How is he getting dressed now and compared to how he was before? And to think that, I don't think that this will end his career, but can you imagine? I mean, some players wait their whole lives to get that opportunity, and then for something like this to happen.
Well, you tear up your thumb and you're a baseball pitcher. I mean, conceivably that could screw you up.
Yeah, it could. Specifically, it's a non-displaced fracture. Don't know what that means, as I'm not a doctor.
I think that means it didn't go, how sometimes your finger or a toe will bend in the wrong direction, so it looks awful. So I think it didn't come out of the joint and go in displace itself. So I think he fractured it without spinning it in the wrong direction.
So we'll be thinking of you, Zach, as you recover from. And isn't that just horrible? Like, you're a baseball player. It's not like you can't do anything in your free time, right? It's just your thumb. But it's the one thing you kind of need when you're a pitcher, and that is your pitching hand. So now he's just sitting there probably reliving that moment he took that shirt off. Why did I have to do it so aggressively on that day?
We're going to have to do a list someday soon on the weirdest sports injuries ever. And this dude makes the list. Definitely.
For sure. So good luck to you, sir. As I don't know how long it takes to come back from a thumb injury, but that's not a great one to have. All right, keeping with the MLB, because this was huge yesterday, Chris. I don't know if you saw these hats, but the MLB, as well as New Era, released the local market hats, which specifically were hats for each team that had the team logo front and center. Also included were zip codes of fans for those areas. Some hats had 1 zip code, others had up to 9. A lot of the hats included the state flags, city flags if they had them. Almost like if you were to go on Word and type in this city and whatever clip art would come up with, those got put on these hats. and the internet took notice, and they bashed them some more. A lot of people took the Astros hat and took away what's on there was a obviously Texas state flag, a cowboy hat, a NASA rocket ship, as well as those zip codes, and put trash cans and drumsticks on there instead. The internet mocked these hats so much that New Era has removed them from their website. Now this morning I checked, they are on Fanatics. They're $42.
That's crazy.
So I don't know, maybe you buy it now because apparently they're not going to be on shelves for much longer because people hate them so much. I'm not a graphic designer. I'm also no fashionista, but I probably could have told you that this looks like, your first week of school, you're in first grade. You do a project where you're going to introduce yourself to the class, and you go and you pull all these pictures and you put them on one thing. That's what these hats look like, sir.
There, I am scrolling through them now. I went to Twitter and just popped in MLB local market hats, and they are ugly. They're busy. Like, I'm looking at San Diego. It's got palm trees. It's got a California bear on it. It's got the state. I do see the mocking Astros hats with the trash cans, which are kind of funny. But yeah, you're right. It looks like something a kindergartner would create. Yeah. They're just ugly, busy, awful hats, and they want you to pay $42 for them. Wow.
And even the KC Royals had some fun with it, as they apparently were like, what is this? So if you go to their Twitter profile right now and you read the KC Royals bio, it says, located in Kansas City, Missouri. We love Kansas area codes, saxophones, the flag of Kansas City, pigs, Missouri, and the 1985 World Series. So they are clearly having some fun with it too, as it's just a smorgasbord of whatever I guess they thought. I didn't look at Casey's hat. Wow. Apparently there's a pig on there.
Why is a pig representative of Kansas City, Missouri?
I watched Modern Family, and Cam on that show was from Kansas, and he always talked about growing up on the farm and his pet pigs. So I guess it's pig country up there in Kansas City, but I just, it's utterly ridiculous. And, the internet shames a lot of clothing items, a new Nike drop, maybe the colors aren't what people want, it goes one way or the other. There's never, someone that's just indifferent, right? You always have your opinion when it comes to fashion. These ain't it. These ain't it, New Era. And it's so sad because, right, they just came off of the NFL draft, and those hats are always such a big deal, right? They're the first hats that new player is going to wear of their new team. Those photos live on forever. Fans go out and buy the hats prior to the draft. A lot of them continue to wear them through the season. They're always a big release. And then just a short time later, you drop these local market hats. I think the idea of a local market hat is there, very similar to like what the NBA does with their city jerseys.
Yes.
Some of them are hit, some of them are miss. These hats were a miss. I just don't think the execution was there. So hopefully maybe we'll see a redo. If they were to redo these for your beloved Astros. Because right now you got the cowboy hat picture.
Right.
You got probably, I think it's like 5 area codes around there.
Yeah.
On the back there is a spaceship for NASA.
I like that.
I didn't see if there was a blue bonnet on there. I wouldn't be surprised if there was. And then, of course, the Texas flag. Are they missing something? They need to put some ribs on there?
Maybe some ribs. Maybe some cowboy boots. I like a rocket, something NASA oriented. Makes total sense. So, yeah, maybe some beads of sweat because it's so damn humid in Houston.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Like an automatic, like when your baseball hat gets really sweaty, like when it's 110 degrees outside, and you see like this wave of like wet sweat around the headband. They should like have it just automatic, just colored in. Here's the sweat, whether you're sweating or not in Houston. Here's the official sweat of the baseball cap.
Yeah. So take notes, New Era, as you try again. Like I said, those are still on Fanatics website for $42 if you want to have this, what I'm sure will be limited edition version
$42
of the local market hats. All right. My final story today takes us to Flavortown.
Let's go to Flavortown.
I mean, who doesn't love Flavortown?
Yeah.
I love a good diners, drive-ins, and dives.
Yes.
With Guy Fieri. It's one show I love to binge as typically when it's on for 8 hours at a time. I can't watch it hungry though, because all of that greasy goodness just makes me want to go get my own plate of greasy goodness. This guy signed a 3-year, $80 million contract with the Food Network.
Wow.
Yesterday. And most people took note and are now comparing him to top paid athletes, right? Because he is now worth more per year. 26.7 million, I think is what it comes out to.
My God.
A year.
I mean,
I mean, you think about some of your favorite athletes
and,
Yes.
and
and the ones that are Pro Bowlers and All-Stars. They don't make that much.
But
But this guy, Food Network, he is the quarterback of Food Network.
Wow.
I don't know if he does more than Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives, but oh my goodness. Flavortown, I want to go there. Take me there.
My God.
That's where the jackpot is.
Well, and you think the Food Network isn't like ABC or NBC or Fox or HBO. I had no, for them to be paying him that kind of money, how much money are those TV shows on the Food Network making? I had no idea they generated enough money to pay Guy Fieri $80 million.
Well, and I can wonder if everyone's going to HBO Max or Netflix or something like that. That maybe someone was trying to get him for something else, so that they had to show their hand. Because this is huge. This is like how much is Tony Romo getting paid for his CBS gig?
I don't know. But
I mean, I feel like this is very similar.
Probably not 80 million.
I mean, it's a hosting gig.
Yeah.
I don't know how many shows he has, like I said, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see about 5 more with a big payday like this. But congrats to you, sir.
Yeah.
I've eaten at one of his restaurants, and I don't think it exists anymore. It was at Universal in Orlando years ago. But it was good.
Yeah, he came through San Antonio. There's they've got really good fish tacos. It's a place called Beto's, and they're known for their empanadas. It's on Broadway near Loop 410 in San Antonio. But what that dive-in drivers and dives, or whatever the name of that Guy Fieri show is, he came through there, and I remember. And it's because I go there. I like the fish tacos at Beto's. So knowing that Guy Fieri likes that place was kind of cool. But and again, though, I don't. I remember the late great Anthony Bourdain. I used to love what he did on CNN and kind of travel the world and enjoy food. He was kind of a poet and kind of a, I don't see Guy, and I know he's a big star on the Food Network. I don't see him as like an $80 million man. I know who he is. God love him, and I know he's popular. But my God, that's a lot of money.
I feel like a lot of people either love him or they hate him. For whatever reason, they don't like the hair. They don't like the backwards wearing of the sunglasses when he's inside. They don't like him pulling up in that red convertible. I don't know. They don't like Flavortown, I guess. They don't like fulfill flavors. I don't know. Congrats to you, sir, on being the quarterback of Food Network and Discovery. And I'm amazed. I'm amazed because that guy, when you think of this show that he does, that he's most known for, Driving he's literally going into holes in the wall.
Yeah.
Who would have thought it would earn him $80 million? So follow your passion, folks. That's what I'm trying to say. Because one day you too could get a Guy Fieri contract. He got the max deal, sir. There it concludes today's Salty Shakedown.
Outstanding as always, mind blowing on Guy Fieri, and of course, equally mind blowing about the Major League Baseball local market caps. I wonder if somebody at New Era is going to get fired for executing that idea badly.
Maybe LeBron should call it stupid, and maybe they will get fired.
Wow. LeBron, though, they come back last night. The Lakers beat Phoenix 109-102 in a game that the Lakers had to win. They couldn't have gone down 0-2 to Phoenix. That was getting out of hand. But as I've celebrated throughout most of the morning, the Dallas Mavericks win again on the Clippers home floor, 127-121. Mavericks take a 2-0 lead, 39 points for Luka Doncic last night. So hopefully they will keep a good thing going. We'll talk a little NBA playoffs coming up here in just a moment after the top of the hour with Bill Schoening, the voice of the San Antonio Spurs. Tonight, 3 games, Shannon. Philly hosting Washington. Philly up 1-0 there. Knicks hosting Atlanta. Knicks down a game, 1-0. Atlanta looking for the 2-0 lead on the Knicks home floor at Madison Square Garden. And another interesting, Utah hosting Memphis. Memphis up 1-0 in that series. They're kind of the upstart surprise team of this NBA playoffs, having been a 9-seed play-in and now up 1-0 over the team with the best record in the NBA, the Utah Jazz.
Would you like to see Memphis take them out just because they're playing a number 1 seed?
Yes, I would. I tend to pull for underdogs. I would feel bad for Utah because Utah and they're
already get so much credit.
they're Spurs connections there. Quinn Snyder, former coach of the Austin Toros in the Spurs organization. Dennis Lindsey, their general manager, a longtime Popovich associate in San Antonio. So I mean, I like that franchise, and I feel so all those years with Jerry Sloan as coach and John Stockton and Karl Malone, and they went to play Michael Jordan in the finals and the Bulls, but never won it. So I'd rather that happen to like the Clippers, who I hate, but I mean, if it's got to happen, good on you, Memphis. John Morant's kind of interesting, kind of fun. Jonas Valanciunas on that team. So
Grayson Allen's on that team.
Ooh, you don't like Grayson? Yeah,
Tripper.
he's got issues. Yeah. All right. We'll see how Bill Schoening feels about the NBA playoffs and more. Bill talks football. Bill talks entertainment. We love having Bill Schoening on, the voice of the Spurs. He joins us next. She's Shannon Salty Sweeney. He's Dave Ayler. I'm Chris, with you till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. Good morning, Beth Settle.
So the Astros are doing something pretty cool for Memorial Day.
Really?
They have Houston Astros hats that are colored to the different branches of the military.
Oh, no kidding. That's cool.
Those look way better than those other hats.
Yeah, I got to go check those out. Wes Perkins, I see you in here. Good morning. Yeah, John Williams, Kyle Anderson. Yeah, I can't believe he's starting for. I mean, Kyle Anderson as a Spur, I never thought was that good. And he is starting for Memphis and performing. Carl Fisher says he feels Kyle Anderson didn't fit the Spurs system. Yeah, that could be. I always say beware of drafting a guy whose nickname is Slow-Mo in a league where you need some speed. Carl Fisher, I hope that all goes well for you with the foot. Jason Paniagua says, if karma was truly a bitch, then Toronto would not have won a championship. Yeah. I'm sorry that worked out the way it worked out. But hopefully, little karma could be happening with the Clippers as we speak. Would be nice to see them ousted, especially since they sure seem to have tried to avoid the Lakers by losing to two really bad teams in the final two games to avoid that side of the bracket. Let's avoid the Lakers and then you get the Mavericks and you lose would be kind of some poetic justice there. John Williams says, happy 60th birthday to Six Flags over Texas. I did not know that. Thank you, sir. Bring Pop to the Clips. I don't think so, AJ. AJ says the Clippers roster is going to get blown up. I think so. I mean, if you're that Clipper owner, Steve Ballmer, why would you want to spend all that money on Kawhi if he's not delivering the goods and if he seems like more of a problem than anything else? Here we come.
This is the Chris Duel Show. Now, Chris Duel.
You made it to the midpoint of the week, Wednesday, May 26th, under a full moon that went total lunar eclipse earlier this morning. It's the Chris Duel Show along with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Dave Ayler is your soundscape stylist. Lots going on in the sports world. We talked about Jalen Smith, the Dallas Cowboys linebacker, changing his number to 9, Tony Romo's number. It's part of our poll question. We'll update that for you a little bit later. Dodgers annihilate the Astros last night, 9-2. 3 NBA playoff games last night, including the Dallas Mavericks going up 2-0 over the LA Clippers, beating the Clippers 127-121. 3 NBA games on tap tonight. We will talk NBA playoffs and more right now with our very special guest. He's joined us throughout the NBA season, and he's been kind enough to come in on his first week off since the NBA season ended for the San Antonio Spurs, and for him as the voice of the San Antonio Spurs, Bill Schoening. How you doing this morning?
Very good. It would have been very weird on a Wednesday morning at 8 o'clock not to be on with you, Chris. So it's just kind of strange. So maybe I'm just kind of slowly but surely getting myself out of that rhythm. But it's 8 o'clock on a Wednesday, so I'm with you.
Well, and we love having you, and it's and I certainly wanted to talk a little NBA playoffs with you, Bill, but it's our first time talking on this radio program now that the Spurs season has ended. It was an unusual season. First of all, just the structure of it at 72 games, a first half released and then a second half. And as you well know, that second half was so backloaded. I think the first question is, how did the last week feel for you, not having to do a game either every other night or back-to-back nights? I mean, it was certainly a grind for the Spurs, but everybody else who either worked for the Spurs or in broadcasting, it was kind of a grind for everyone, and as well, just because of how the sheer volume of games in the second half.
Yeah, I would have loved to have the season continue, Chris. But to be honest with you, it was kind of tiring at the end. I know the team was fatigued. They didn't talk about it very much, but we had Becky Hammond on. I think it was maybe the next to last game, and you can tell just by the tone of her voice that the guys were worn out. I mean, this was very, very difficult season anyway. But then with the COVID outbreak in mid-February, when the team was playing very well, to lose 4 or 5 guys at that stretch, and then they came back incrementally. They didn't come all back at one time, and I think it was just very hard for this team to get its rhythm during that second half of the season. And, obviously the injury of Derek White really hurt because he's such a good player at both ends of the floor. And, he had a very disjointed season in terms of his availability. He missed the beginning of the year because he was recovering from the toe injury. And then he injured the toe when his first game back and missed another few weeks. Then, of course, he was part of the, COVID thing in February. So I really felt bad for Derek White because his whole season was fits and starts, and it kind of reflected the entire team. You get into a little bit of a rhythm, and then something happens, and all of a sudden now you're fighting it again, or you're real shorthanded. You got several guys out. Pop was trying to rest guys, but it was very difficult to do, as you talked about that schedule, and of course the travel schedule was brutal. So it was just very, very difficult for this team to get its rhythm all season long.
But the Spurs now in the offseason, Bill, what's on top of their to-do list? Is it making sure a guy like Devin White is going to be healthy moving forward? Is it looking to the draft? Is it signing DeMar DeRozan or seeing what is available out there for them? What is their number one thing on that list?
Talk about it very much at the end of the season. I think one of the things that they feel good about, Shannon, is that they've got a good young nucleus. And they've got guys that are in their early 20s that are only going to get better. And they've got a young veteran who's 24, and DeJounte Murray, who wants to lead them. And one of the things I was very pleased to hear at the tail end of the season was these young guys talking about the work they're going to put in this summer, because they realize there's another level to get to, and they realize there's a lot of improvement to be made, even though they've made strides already early in their career. But guys like DeJounte want to bring Keldon and Lonnie and Devin Vassell in, and Luka Šamanić, and just work with these guys and get some really good work in. And it's going to be an important summer, I think, in the area of development. In terms of personnel and what's going to happen with free agency, that is really up in the air right now. And, of course, the Spurs may have a plan, but they've always, and Chris, you can back me up on this, they've always played it close to the vest. So we're not going to know necessarily, what the game plan is until maybe they, sign a free agent or, make a trade or whatever personnel moves they make during the summer.
Yeah, and you're so right, Bill. And I've seen it manifest itself every offseason. You look at social media and even paid really big time NBA analysts speculate on what they think the Spurs will do, and they're almost never right. It's this. They're very much like a military operation. It's like the CIA. Some people call Coach Greg Popovich CIA Pop. It's like, no, you unless you're in that organization, you don't know. But I think it's going to be very fascinating. And Bill, I'm sure hoping, and we did hear from IOC board member Dick Pound said about the Tokyo Olympics that he believes it's going to happen, that canceling it is off the table. I think obviously local officials could still override that, but I am sure hoping, Bill, I am such a big fan, as you are, of Coach Greg Popovich. And as we know, he is poised to lead Team USA in the Tokyo Olympics this summer. And I sure hope that happens and the games happen. And I would just love to see him do that. And obviously pulling for him and Team USA to take gold medal.
Yes, and there's going to be such a strange lead up to the Olympics because the playoffs go right until almost the Olympics start. So kind of a strange season in that regard. There might be a couple of guys in the team that, are going to make positive contributions that might not be household names. We just don't know yet. I mean, there's a ton of players that will want to play for Team USA this summer, I'm sure. And Pop will have a very good unit to run out there. But it is going to be kind of strange preparing for during the playoffs.
Well, with that, let's talk Mr. International Tony Parker. Will he put on the uniform for France? And also, I didn't realize he was an incredible poker player. He is heading to the World Series of Poker. Has he always been a poker guy?
Really don't know, to be honest with you. This is news to me. I didn't realize that Tony was, he's a man of many interests and many talents. I would be shocked if he played in the Olympics, but he might be part of their management team. I can see that because really the resurgence of basketball in France. You talk to the young players that made the NBA from France, and Tony's name always comes up. Whether it's Evan Fournier. You go down and list all the fine players that came out of France. They're all over the NBA right now. And I think that, Tony's got a lot to do with that. He was the first guy that really broke through and became a star in the NBA from, the nation of France. Inspiring guys, just good, like I said, just go down the list. The Spurs had a few of them. Nando De Colo, of course, is playing overseas. Joffrey Laverne. Jan Mahimi was a draft choice. So the list goes on and on as far as Spurs connections with France. Boris Diaw, of course, was good friends with Tony. They kind of came up together. So, for France has a bright future as far as their basketball is concerned. But I did not know that Tony was involved in the international poker tournament.
He is a man of many talents, as is Bill Schoening, our guest, voice of the San Antonio Spurs, Bill Schoening. Bill, now the Spurs season is over. I mean, with so many NBA playoff games each night to take a look at. There were 3 last night. There's 3 tonight. Are you, you spend the entire season just locked in on the Spurs and the NBA. Are you able now to just kind of sit back and be a fan and enjoy the playoffs? And I know you're from Philadelphia originally, and while you're all about the San Antonio Spurs, I know you're in the Eastern Conference. I know you enjoy watching that 76ers team. How are you enjoying the NBA playoffs so far?
Hey, it's funny, Chris. The only team that interests me in the Eastern Conference is the Philadelphia 76ers. So when I try to pick out what games I'm going to watch that particular evening, if the Sixers are playing, I'll watch that Eastern Conference game. Right now, of course, they're involved in a series with the Washington Wizards. But the Western Conference, all the teams interest me. And these series all interest me. And, of course, I watched the Suns-Lakers last night. I got to be honest. I'm pulling for the Suns for a couple of reasons. One is, all the hype about the Lakers. I know there's a lot of Spurs fans that are probably in the same boat with me, that they're pulling for the Suns too. And also, Al McCoy is a longtime play-by-play guy for the Phoenix Suns. He is now, I think, in his 48th year, Chris, and he's 87 or 88 years.
Wow.
Still the radio guy for the Suns, and, he's never had a ring. So I would really love for that to happen. And also, Monty Williams is such a great guy. And of course, former Spurs player, former Spurs volunteer coach, former Spurs front office guy, and a dear friend of Greg Popovich and close to the organization. And I really would love to see him, make a run here with this Phoenix team that hasn't been in the playoffs in a decade. And it's pretty amazing to see them as the number 2 seed. The Memphis-Utah series intrigues me as well because, they need Donovan Mitchell badly, the Jazz. And this Memphis team, even though the grit and grind is kind of passed with, we're not going to see Zach Randolph or Marcus Hall play for the Grizzlies, but they've got some good young players that are tough. And I can see the Grizzlies giving the Jazz a very good series, even if Mitchell does come back.
Bill, back to that Lakers-Suns series. Do the Suns ride or die with Chris Paul? Because he's got that shoulder injury that he got during game one that he's still been dealing with. A big screen grab from last night is him actually getting treatment on the sideline with a very uncomfortable look on his face.
Yeah, he is the leader of that team. There's no question. But I was really encouraged with what I saw from Cameron Payne, who's a 6-year player from Murray State. Not a household name, but he seems to be playing with a great deal of confidence. We saw him play very, very well against the Spurs. Remember that final weekend, that Saturday, Sunday, the 2 afternoon games. Payne played very well in those 2 games. So he's carried that over to the playoffs, and they're going to need him because clearly Chris Paul is not close to 100%. But Chris Paul really is kind of the inspirational leader for this ball club. He is one of the reasons they've been able to turn it around. So they need him on the floor, but they need his presence as well. And you watched him last night, even when he was unable to go back in or was resting that shoulder. He was in, the face of Cameron Payne during the timeouts. It was like Monty Williams and Chris Paul were both coaching that team. So, Chris Paul's presence is very, very important. And, of course, the other series, guys, that we haven't talked about yet is the Clippers and the Mavs. And I got so tied up watching Luka versus LeBron last night, versus Kawhi, rather, that I forgot to turn the other game back on for a minute. So that's a fascinating series to me because the Clippers are so well known for their defense, but the Mavs just kind of have their number. The Mavs play very well against the Clippers, and now it's 2-0 going back to Dallas. And the Clippers, I think, are in real trouble.
I do too, Bill. And you talk about Luka Doncic. I mean, here he is delivering the goods on the road in both of those games at Staples Center. That was one of the big question marks. Would the Clippers and Kawhi be able to shut him down? Luka goes for 39 points last night. And now, as I look at that from a Clipper perspective, Bill, Clippers are going to have to win 4 out of 5. 3 of those now will be at Dallas, so you're going to have to win at least 2 of 3 on the road at Dallas. I mean, as good as the Clippers are, this is going to be a tall order for the Clippers to come back and win this series.
We talked all year long, Chris, about the fact that the home court advantage is kind of going away a little bit because the fans weren't there. Well, now the fans are coming back, and now they're coming back at just the right time, right, because it's the playoffs. So the fans are going to be amped up. You know about that. And so now I think home court advantage does take a little bit more of an edge off that visiting team. And now the home team, especially when you're up 2-0 when you're coming home, the Mavs have to feel pretty good about their position right now.
Well, and you know who I feel good about, and again, I'm sure he's not thinking about this, Bill, but Doc Rivers, now coach of your Philadelphia 76ers and enjoying success there. I thought Doc Rivers was kind of run out of that Clippers job unfairly. And obviously he poured in so many years into that organization. I'm just happy that Doc Rivers, so far we'll see how deep the Sixers go. They might just go all the way. It's conceivable. I think anything's possible in this wide open NBA field this year, but I do see it. I do like that Doc Rivers is having a successful season while at the same time, at least for the moment, the Clippers are having their problems.
Absolutely. One of the things about Doc Rivers that I liked, and I read this article about how he treats his team, before the playoffs started in a big team meeting, he went around the entire room and talked about the value of each player to the team, even the guy at the very end of the bench, how important that player is to the team. And I think that brought a sense of unity. Also, Joel Embiid, who certainly has to be in the MVP conversation, is playing very, very well. He's hitting that mid-range jumper. I think he's in better shape than he's been in years past. I think he's maybe a little bit more focused. And, Ben Simmons is not a guy that's going to score a lot, but, to get 15 rebounds, 15 assists in the playoff game, that's pretty amazing. So, and Tobias Harris, to me, is their X factor. This is the guy that, can score, can play some good defense, runs the floor very well. And, of course, his claim to fame, he's best friends with Boban Marjanovic.
Nice.
Bill, we learned yesterday that Porzingis is being fined $50,000 for venturing to a club of sorts during the season. A club of sorts. And LeBron had his tequila party in which he was not reprimanded. And he also, I saw a photo of him. He's back to recording his HBO Max show, The Shop, in which he was photographed with the likes of Jay-Z, among other moguls in the music business and entertainment business. Is this what's the difference between the two that we're not seeing? Because on the surface, it feels like the NBA wants to keep LeBron the king and is not letting anyone get near his crown.
LeBron does get treated with kid gloves. I think that's fair to say. You know, he's a guy that a lot of people want to watch. Now, I know there's a lot of executives right now, Shannon, very nervous about this Lakers-Suns series. They definitely want the Lakers to advance because if you look at all the promotions from the TV networks who are pouring millions and millions of dollars into this whole thing, you know, they're going to hype LeBron James. You know, you go to a Spurs game, and Chris, I do this all the time. I'll see a fan with either a Laker or a Miami Heat, Cleveland Cavalier, LeBron jersey, and I'll say, "Hey, what part of Cleveland are you from?" And they're from the east side of San Antonio. And we got a great team here. Why are you wearing a Lakers jersey? I don't get that. The same thing with Kobe. You know, I just it boggles my mind that you've got a team that's been a serious contender for 2 decades. And you're wearing the jersey of another team in Los Angeles. You've never been to California. Never understood that, but the league really does a good job of promoting individual players. And I'm about team. I'd rather see a good team than just one individual player. Sure, stars drive the league. I get that. But at the same time, it's about winning. And that's why I think all those years, you know, Manu Ginobili's winning percentage is .721.
Wow.
In NBA history. Of course, Tim Duncan had a lot to do with that. And Tony and Tim are right up there, too. But if you just want to look at individual winning, that's what the Spurs did for all those years. But they never got the highlights. They never got the headlines. They were always, you know, in the middle of the pack at SportsCenter. And that's a conscious effort by the people that market the league.
Yeah, it is. And what you described would drive me crazy as well. In your own backyard in San Antonio, you've got the greatest franchise, I think, both on and off the court. Such great character guys. And then you're going to go wear LeBron jerseys when LeBron comes to town, and even when he's not. So, Bill, I got to ask you before we let you go, knowing what you know, and I mean, throughout the season, I mean, you know these NBA teams intimately because it's your job to know the personnel and the teams. If right now, who do you favor coming out of the East and coming out of the West to face each other in the finals? A lot of people assume the Brooklyn Nets, because they're a super team, are going to come out of the East. But, you know, we've talked about the Sixers, and I think it's going to be fascinating. If you had to favor somebody out of the East and somebody out of the West right now, who would it be?
West is wide open. I think the East comes down to a couple of teams, and I think Philly is one of them. Although, give Washington credit, they gave the Sixers a very tough time in Game 1. They'll play Game 2 tonight. I'm a little bit biased, but I'll go with Philly out of the East. The West is just crazy. You know, I mean, a lot of it rides on the health of Donovan Mitchell, because if Utah can get him back, and I know folks that you know, Utah hasn't really had a good playoff run, but look at what Utah has done during the course of the season. They're good at both ends of the floor. They shoot a lot of threes, but they need him back. So if Mitchell is healthy, I can see Utah winning. Although if he's not, I can see Memphis knocking him off in the first round. That's how crazy the West is right now. You know, how long did the Mavs ride Luka Doncic? This is a guy that's playing extremely great basketball right now, and some of the role players are playing well too. So I would not necessarily rule them out, even though they're not one of the top seeds. So, and of course, I'm pulling against the Clippers and Lakers. Teams in the finals, but the league might not be happy with that. But if Donovan Mitchell's healthy, I'll go with Utah. I'd love to see the Phoenix Suns knock off the Lakers, but I'll go with the Utah-Philly series, and that's a pure guess. Even though it's an educated guess, because I've seen these teams play, I really do think it's a crapshoot right now in the NBA.
Yeah, but it sure is a lot of fun. There's so much intrigue, so many storylines in these NBA playoffs. He is the voice of the San Antonio Spurs, Bill Schoening. You can find him on Twitter at Spurs Radio. Bill, always a pleasure. We love having you on, man. Have yourself a great weekend. Have yourself a great Memorial Day weekend.
You too. Thanks, guys. Thanks
so much. Bill Schoening, voice of the San Antonio Spurs. Good to know that Bill's pulling against the Clippers and pulling against the Lakers. He's not adamant or vocalizing. I mean, my reason to pull against the Clippers, number 2 on his jersey, number 2 in more ways than one. Name starts with a K. So maybe if he gets bounced in the first round, Shannon, I can let go of my Kawhi bitterness. Maybe I can
I
just.
don't think you will, though.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Maybe I don't. You said we need the closure. I need the Spurs to win another title.
Yeah.
That would be closure.
Or be the ones to bounce him from the
Ooh,
playoffs.
oh, now that would be beautiful. That would be beautiful. All right, coming up, we will take a look at what else is going on around the world of sports. There's a number of stories that we have not gotten to yet that we will get to because we should. And I'll try not to talk about the Houston Astros, but I might have to. They've lost 4 in a row. They play the Dodgers again tonight. They lost 9-2 last night. It was not pretty. And yes, there were some loud, obnoxious Dodger fans mocking the Astros at Minute Maid Park. We'll get into all of that. She is Shannon Salty Sweeney. Dave Ayler making the show go. We're with you till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. There you go, Wes. Let's see. Wes wrote, Spurs young guns are going to continue to be better, but they're the same type of player. Will be interesting to see what transpires. One thing for sure is the biggest summer for the Spurs in a long time. AJ says, I don't need to say loud and obnoxious to describe Dodger fans. That's already implied. Thank you. Wes Perkins, hey, I'm an Astros fan, but it's funny, the Dodger fans ragging on them. They kind of deserve it. Yeah. And when I've seen creative ragging on the Astros, I'm okay with that. And Sam Tobias, yes. I was watching the game last night. Zach Greinke, when it was 2-0, they wound up loading the bases and getting another couple of runs to make. And Greinke, there were 2 outs. And Greinke kind of fell into some trouble and let them load the bases and go up 4-0. At that point, I kind of realized that game was getting away. It wound up going 9-2. Eric, I agree. Clever trolling is always appreciated. Yes. You're going to troll. Be clever. Be creative. Make it fun. Yeah, AJ, it's going to be interesting to see how the, how long this Astros trolling continues. I imagine, as you say, it should dissipate. I don't know how much next year, and again, I just hope, and they've lost 4 in a row, so it's not a good moment, but I just would find it hilarious if the Astros just kept winning to just drive the detractors crazy. Carl Fisher says these people hating on the Astros are people that just complain to complain. Leave it in the past. Leave it. The past is the past. Yep. Well, and, especially you look at Twitter and social media, I think most people like to complain. I think their default mode and mood is to complain. So, a lot of cynicism. Here we come. Welcome back. It's the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney, Dave Ayler, St. Louis Blues hockey fan wearing his Stanley Cup champion 2019 t-shirt. And coming up, Shannon, you and I actually, shocker, going to hang out early for lunch today. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah. I hope just come in with low expectations. That's all I'm saying. I'd rather over exceed expectations.
Well, we know the food's going to be good. So.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We stuck with our comfort zone.
Yes. So Shannon and I were going to meet halfway. Shannon's in Austin. I'm in San Antonio. So halfway, I guess, is San Marcos-ish.
Yeah.
Right? So,
That's
yeah.
gotta be
So,
right.
So God created a Chewy's in San Marcos. So
Perfect.
we'll hang out there.
Perfect.
Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. You didn't bring this up. I should have gone there because you put it in some of the notes, Shannon, a story that got your attention. We had Bill Schoening on just now. He's a Philly guy, and apparently Philly, known for its cheesesteak, apparently there's something going on there with Philly and cheesesteak.
Yeah, the first article I said that was that they were creating a 600-foot long cheesesteak. The goal was 480. It ended up being closer to 510, 520. But that's a very long cheesesteak. Apparently, it was
Yes.
for a birthday for a local restaurant owner that they were going to surprise him. And for those wondering what kind it was a class like a marinara. They
Okay.
said, I guess it's like the provolone and the marinara sauce and meatballs maybe. I don't know. But that's just like such a Philly thing to me.
Yeah.
It seems like because that's also gross.
It is gross.
You know, like when you go to a party and you see one of those oversized cut up,
Yeah.
you're not eating that, are you?
And
How
especially
close to
now.
death from starvation do you have to be to eat
Exactly.
one of those?
Well, now in the post-COVID world, we're kind of hearing, I think of a 600-foot long Philly cheesesteak that all these people are over it and they're
Yeah.
breathing on it and
Put
they're
it together
so I don't. Ugh.
before anyone eats it.
Yeah, and it's going to be really interesting because I used to we would go to Cancun to this resort and it was known for its buffets. It was like the best food in the world was at this buffet. And you want Alaskan king crab, get it. You want enchiladas, get it. You want great pizza, it's there. And the selling point was it's this buffet. It's eat whatever you want, eat all you want, go to the buffet, have fun. Now, they're saying buffets are done post-COVID. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. And to me, the Philly cheesesteak reminds me of a buffet.
I get why we can't do the buffet the way we used to, but there's nothing wrong with having someone back there to serve it to you.
True.
Because they're typically there anyway, right? Because they're having to refill
Yeah.
the stations that need refill. So I appreciate those that have gone that route. Like, and I mentioned earlier, I'm going to Disney World, and right now, they've been reopening a lot of things. But one of the big changes that happened was all their quick service is now mobile ordering.
Okay.
And I don't know if I like that. I think we're going to do a lot of dining reservations, which you have to make 90 days in advance or something.
Whoa.
It's insane.
You've got to make your dining reservations 90 days in advance.
Actually, you can, and that most people would prefer to even make them further out. Like, and you have to make your park reservations. So yesterday, we now have our park reservations for each day. But then from there, where do we want to eat? We need to make our reservations, and you have to wake up at like 6 a.m. to get a space at one of the better restaurants.
Oh, that's crazy.
So
See,
the vacation is going to be, it'll be great in one way in that it's all going to be planned prior to, which is part of the reason why I wanted to go is that I feel I usually get back from vacations and I need a vacation.
Yeah. If you're getting up at 6 in the morning
in front of me, I just go and enjoy. But I'm a little stressed out in the planning of this vacation with all that entails during these COVID times, especially because they are reopening. So things are changing.
Yeah.
With each day.
So at Disney World, and I've been to Disneyland in Southern California. I've not been to Disney World in Florida. Is there a specific, when you go to the park, is there a specific attraction? You go, I got to do this. I can't wait to do this. Or is it just the whole experience itself?
So I've been once and it was over 10 years ago. So
Okay.
there's been plenty that's changed. I mean, the whole world, the Galaxy's Edge, all the Star Wars stuff, Toy Story, all that's at what used to be MGM is now considered Hollywood Studios. I always love a classic Pirates of the Caribbean ride. I believe
Yes.
that's been updated to kind of bring in the movies into it a
Ooh.
little bit. So that'll be new for me. And yeah, I'm just ready to. And I was close to 15 years old at the time I went. So now I'm going as an adult, and I think it'll be a new experience. I don't know if I'll play around the world. I might play in quarters because Epcot is open later than most parks. And for those that don't know, Epcot is where like they have all of these countries. I think there's like 11 of them.
Yeah.
And they're all built to look like you're experiencing that country, and they have restaurants and they have special drinks, and it's one of the few areas in Disney World where you can get alcohol. So people go
Nice.
and they drink at each country. Soccer star Alex Morgan notoriously kicked out of Disney World Epcot after
Whoa.
her group got belligerent. I don't think they had even finished yet. Probably only like the 9th country. So I'll have to play that in quarters. I don't think I can do 11 drinks in one day and still enjoy the rest of my vacation.
Yeah. I would imagine after the 11th drink in the 11th country, they'd have to wheel you out.
Yeah.
So that would be tough. Noticing today, Dave Ayler with his magnificent show prep. Today is National Blueberry Cheesecake Day. So just putting that out there.
I like cheesecake, but I don't like blueberries.
Yeah. Blueberry cheesecake's weird. I mean, it's not. Now some either raspberries or strawberry on the cheesecake. I can be good with that.
Yeah, I like sweet cheesecake. I like a Reese's,
Mm.
like a peanut butter, like a mint chocolate chip. I had
Yeah.
cookie dough cheesecake the other day. That was good.
Very, very
Cinnamon
nice.
cheesecake. Pretty much just I don't like fruit and stuff. I don't like fruit or vegetables.
Today is also National Sally Ride Day. The astronaut. She was the first female American astronaut, Sally Ride.
What do we do for that?
I don't know. I guess you contemplate space exploration or inspire a kid to study science.
Mm.
I don't know. Maybe look up at the eclipse, which we missed this morning. So, wow. All right. And we didn't know this at the time. Sally Ride, because it wasn't publicized at the time. I'm looking at the notes. Sally Ride was also the first known LGBT astronaut. A lot of, not that it mattered, but, she wasn't that. And I think she went up originally like around 1984. Or 83. She was on the Space Shuttle Challenger in 1983. And at that time, I guess, people were quiet about their sexuality, but that's kind of an interesting thing. There's a movie, one more, we talked about some streaming fare on Apple Plus TV. There's it's my favorite thing on Apple Plus TV. It's called For All Mankind, and it's about space exploration. But what it is, it's an alternate history. So in 1969, we're about to land on the moon, and the Americans are about to land on the moon. But wait, the Russians get there first. So we landed on the moon in July of 1969. Historically, this goes back, and in June of 1969, all these astronauts are in Houston at a bar, and boom, surprise, the Russians land on the moon first. So history changes. So then Nixon, who was the president, says, damn, the Russians got there first. We need to do something first. We're going to land a man and a woman on the moon first. So that the whole space program kind of morphs. And then the space exploration becomes kind of militarized. But what's cool about this series is it's alternate history. So it's got historical people you have heard of as characters, one of whom is Sally Ride, and there's a lunar mission, and so the Russians are on the moon and they're militarizing the moon, and the Americans are on the moon and we're escalating our weapons. So there's a moment in space orbiting the moon when an American commander is going to fire on a Russian spacecraft. And if he does that, it's going to cause World War III. So the Sally Ride character, based on the Sally Ride, on the middle of the spacecraft, pulls out a gun and is holding it to a fellow American, saying, you're not going to do this. I'm not going to let you fire this rocket and start World War III by taking out this Soviet spacecraft. So it's kind of cool. So there's your Sally Ride tie-in.
It almost feels very Star Wars, right? In that we're trying to occupy
it
planets and moons and
Well, it's Star Wars yet, and you know, as time gets like at one point,
regular people.
yeah, it's people you've heard of. So like while this is going on the moon, Reagan is the president. So this episode happened in like 1986, and you know Reagan. So you still see you see history doing kind of what it did in America and around the world, but it took a different path in 1969. So anyway, being a space exploration freak. It's right up my alley. So I highly recommend For All Mankind, in addition to Mayor of Easttown on HBO Max and 1971, the year that music changed everything, is a new series there. So there's your entertainment segment that started with Sally Ride going into space after Blueberry Cheesecake. And before that, Epcot Center and Disney. And before that, Chewy's, which we'll go full circle to.
Yeah.
So what are you going to have at Chewy's today for lunch?
I tend to do the deluxe chicken enchiladas, double beans instead of rice, and then I eat half, and the later half is.
Ooh, you got something to take home.
Yeah.
I am the classic Tex-Mex cheese enchilada plate guy.
Okay.
And of course the fresca salsa that I'm sure they put crack in. In fact, I may talk to the manager today and say, "Come clean. What do you put in the fresca salsa? Because it's addictive." Yes. And would it be rude of me to just snort it with a straw? Would that just be too weird for fellow Chewies? And you might be embarrassed if I do that.
You might need one of those shake straws to get the.
Exactly. It's so good. The fresca salsa is so good. All right, we had a poll question this morning that was inspired by Jalen Smith, the Dallas Cowboy linebacker, choosing to wear number 9 now because he can, because the NFL has changed their jersey numbering requirements for players. Now a linebacker can wear number 9. Jalen Smith wore it in college. He is going to wear it from now on for the Cowboys, but you will recall number 9 was Tony Romo's number, Shannon, and that inspired our poll question.
Yes, asking, should Tony's number 9 join Aikman's and Staubach's and Emmett's and Lily's and all of those players' numbers in kind of being off limits? We've got lots of votes that have come in so far today, but overwhelmingly 90% are saying no, should not be considered a holy number in the Dallas Cowboys world. And I agree.
Yeah, I do agree also, but I'm telling you, and you've got to know, and as successful as Tony Romo is, and he is such a great broadcaster and maybe the best ever color analyst now in football. I gotta believe he must know that he did not fulfill his destiny as a Cowboy quarterback. You are supposed to do what Roger did: 2 Super Bowls for Roger, 3 Super Bowls for Troy. And I gotta believe that's always gonna gnaw at him that he didn't get that done. And it's a cautionary tale for Dak Prescott. Dak, right, as much as you're going to love your life, you got to do this or you will not have fulfilled your mission as a Cowboy quarterback.
I think of it this way too. When, people still wear the Aikman jersey, right? They still wear the Emmitt Smith jersey. They still sell those jerseys.
There's Roger jerseys out there.
I mean, who in 10 years is going to be going to buy a Tony Romo jersey?
Ooh, that's a very good point.
I don't think you are.
Yeah. And there's not a lot of Danny White
jersey before you buy a Tony Romo jersey.
I don't see Danny White 11 jerseys out there either. Micah Parsons, by the way, wearing the Danny White. So you got Danny White and Tony Romo numbers out there next year for the Cowboys. And is that good? Do you want to wear number 9? Do you want to wear number 11 as a Cowboy?
I mean, he's paying 6 figures for it. So at this point, he's got to be all in. There's no going back.
Yikes.
I wonder what his mother had to say about that. Because if I was his mother, I'd be like, think of all the things you could have bought me.
Yeah. Yeah. Or you could have just put that money in the bank and invested it.
And now instead in the garage, we have boxes of your old number with your name on the back. Who am I going to give those to? But
if he has a great career, he can sign those and auction them off.
Be worth something.
Yeah. But so far, Jalen Smith, I'm not seeing the Pro Football Hall of Fame in your future just yet. Shannon Salty Sweeney, outstanding. Great job as always.
Thanks, sir. Looking forward to lunch.
Lunch in couple of hours at Chewy's, and we'll take photos to prove that we actually, and maybe we'll get thrown out. We'll have photos of security escorting us out too. That'll be fun. Local San Marcos police throwing us in the back of the paddy wagon. It'll be great. Dave Ayler, outstanding, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Let's do this again tomorrow in about 21 hours.
Let's do it.
Why the heck not? Our thanks to the great Bill Schoening, voice of the San Antonio Spurs, talking NBA playoffs with us. Go Astros, for the love of God. Please beat the Dodgers tonight, or I'm going to have another rough day tomorrow. Have yourself a great, great Wednesday. Enjoy, and we will see you mañana. Adios, everybody. See you later.